Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Brandon Cobb, co-founder of HBG Capital. Today, I've got a special guest on the show, Shane Carter. He is the president and CEO of Hampshire Capital. He has been in the game for a long time. He's managed more than $315 million of multifamily commercial real estate development, built over $120 million in real estate through his construction and development firm. He is the author of the Amazon's list. I want to get into this. I think it might be like number one on the Amazon's list. We're going to talk about it, but the book Optimize Your Life. He's really wrote that book, and what I love is the fact that he didn't write that book with an idea of like trying to sell something. It was strictly to give back. We're going to talk with that, but he's on a mission to help others succeed. The book distills many personal life lessons and details about his recipe for fulfillment, relationships, personal passions, and business. We're going to talk about this today. Meet the man. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brandon. Happy to be here. My honor.
Yeah, man, this is exciting. I love your journey that you're on. I kind of relate to you in a little bit of a way. I feel like I'm on a similar journey and you're maybe like 15 years ahead of me. So I love getting guests on the show that have a particular area of their life where they can kind of see ahead and I can sort of pull that information out. And I'm excited to do that for a lot of the listeners listening to the show today. For those that don't know who you are, give us a quick backdrop. What's your story?
Yeah. Hopefully this is something that resonates with a lot of your listeners because I am what I like to call the classic self-made man. So I started out wholesaling contracts, and then I started flipping houses. And through that process, really found that I loved the construction process. So I became a contractor, a general contractor, and started building homes and started building starter homes and then middle market homes. And then I built luxury homes. And then I started doing community development work, and I did a 3 lot subdivision, and then a 6 lot, and then a 20 lot, and sort of grew myself into becoming a developer through this very organic process that took years and years and years. But I just kept leveling up, and then I got into more larger scale development projects. But these are all cash flow businesses, right? These all generate cash, and so I was always looking for a place to invest that cash, knowing that that I was not going to just stay on the hamster wheel of generating cash. So I always bought multifamily assets. I've had some office buildings and some industrial and storage and even fee-based parking lots. I've owned lots of things through the years, but I would say 90% of it has been in multifamily, mostly value add. Because I had a construction firm. So we would do the work, fix them up, refi out our equity, et cetera. And I really just only invested cash that I had. It wasn't until I think 2014 that I first, started taking in other people's money and other investors' money, and growing my assets and holdings by helping other people invest. I just used my own money for at the beginning part of my career. So it was a really very organic, slow process that I think a lot of people have learned how to not have to take the slow road, right? I mean, I'm 52 today, and I got the gray hairs to show it. So it's been a long journey, and I don't regret much of it at all. But it's been a very fun ride.
Yeah, I can tell you've done a lot, lots of different niches within the real estate. And I joke that, real estate, you've got to be flexible, right? You got to be able to pivot with the market.
Yeah.
What is Hampshire Capital up to today? Like, where are you guys focused? Where do you guys see the market headed? Like, where are you guys placing your bets?
Yeah, so we have like I said, about a little over 300 million in assets that we manage now currently, and they're all across the South, Texas, Carolinas, Florida markets. And we saw the writing on the wall back in early 23 relative to the interest rate environment and where things were heading. And so, we're fortunate that everything that we have is all fixed rate debt. It's all Fannie Freddie. It's all well capitalized. DSCRs are 1.4 to 2.1, and so everything's stable, and we're just riding this cycle of the market into 27, 28 is really when we expect to exit a lot of those opportunities that we got into a number of years ago. And so what we started doing in 23 was a bit of something that I had always kept my hand in, which was the development world up here in New England. And we started to roll that out across the areas that we already know and understand and have our folks working in down south. And so we started up our land development practice, where we take raw land, we get it entitled and approved, or we buy already entitled dirt and we put in the roads and infrastructure and sell finished pad sites to home builders, mostly the national home builders, but also, we're just coming out of the ground with a project in Florida now for a BTR development, and we're intending to continue to do a couple of those a year under our own umbrella for BTR product that we'll continue to manage and keep under the Hampshire Capital umbrella. And then finally, we launched our first fund this year, $50 million investment fund, and that's been going well. And that again invests in multifamily, outdoor hospitality, and land development. And we have our second fund launching in about 3 months from now. It should be by the end of Q1 25, which is going to be $100 million land bank fund, and that's going to be a private credit, senior position land bank fund, again to serve our positions in the home builders in the South.
You've been doing this for over 25 years, a lot of success. The very successful people I see, what they do is they do a really good job of seeing the trends. Like you said, you prevented a catastrophe. I mean, your whole portfolio could have gone up in the smoke had you been in a particular position, with bridge debt or, loans coming due. You guys were able to get ahead of that and not only prevent a catastrophe, but you're able to see opportunities in the market that others don't. Talk to us. What made you see the writing on the wall when it came to the interest rates? Like, how did you recognize that, and what did you do to prepare for it?
Yeah, great question. I was fortunate back in the GFC in 2008 and 9 that I have some great financial wizards in my life, and
Mhm.
guys who have been around that are way older than me, 20 plus years older than me, that taught me how to see the writing on the wall. And so, at that time, I didn't have a ton of assets and holdings, but it was all still not over leveraged, and it was
Mhm.
managed in house, and we had great control over everything. And so, frankly, in 2000, early, I think it was April of 2008, he came to me and he said, "Shane, take everything you have out of the stock market and buy gold." And I was like, "What? Why?" And of course, that was the most brilliant move ever, right? For somebody to tell you to do at that moment
Yeah.
in time. And it still didn't materialize until later in the year. So it was still 6+ months of him being ahead of that call, where things looked great and things looked okay and the stock market was doing well. And I didn't have a ton of money in the stock market anyway. I was a real estate guy. But that taught me how to see the forest, to see the forest for the trees, right? Whatever that saying is. And so now in this current environment, it's if you keep your head down and you can't look up and you can't step back and you can't see what's going on around you, that's when people get into trouble. And so we were able to just take a step back and feel the environment and understand, what are we seeing? And boy, this frothiness just doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
frankly, I have a great business partner that is extremely risk adverse and fantastic with a spreadsheet. And he's like, "Shane, these deals just aren't penciling. I don't know why people are paying this. It just doesn't make sense." And so we just started to see that in terms of the writing on the wall, so to speak, of gosh, these people are going to get hurt. I don't know why they're paying a 4.75 cap on this. This just doesn't make sense. It's an asset built in 1984. I don't get it. And we're just going to pass on these. And so we started not buying deals and started to not transact in the environment because of our diligence and underwriting. And that is really what allowed us to see what was happening around us.
Man, that is a gold nugget. If you're listening to this is what I just took from that. If you're wondering when the market top is or when things are getting too much, your indication is when you can't make sense of what people are buying. If it doesn't make sense for you,
Mm.
that is your indicator right
Yeah,
there.
100%.
100%. I love that. See, that's some actionable advice that somebody can take and go out and apply today. So I know that, we've looked at you're doing some land stuff in like Nashville. How did you recognize the opportunity to do, land development with the national home builders and everything? Like, what was it about that? Because you'd been in multifamily, you'd had a lot of success, and something attracted you to this particular space. I know you said that you had a background in this a long time ago as a general contractor. You kind of done this before. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's simply just that this is what I know because this is what I've done. And
Mhm.
so I did my first land entitlement deal in 2012. And so for the last 12 years, I've been taking raw land and getting it entitled and approved, and either building the roads and infrastructure or, selling the entitled projects off. And I really love that. And it's just a passion of mine. So even as I was building, the multifamily portfolios and doing fund management with Hampshire Capital, I still had my hand in land development because I just love the concept of being able to create a community. And at first I took it to be I loved the honor and the passion that I had for creating beautiful homes for families to live in that were previously horrible, disgusting places. We'd come in and they were unrecognizable when we were done fixing them up, or we'd start building them from the ground up and create beautiful homes. And then I just started to apply that to community development work. And so this was something I was always in. And so instead of just keeping it local, here in New England where our business is based, we decided to apply that down south. And what we found was that there's a ton of opportunity, there's a ton of demand, and there are a lot of inefficiencies in the national home building market in that there's a lot of room for a firm like ours to produce value in land entitlement, land development, and in capital markets, which is really a skill set that we have that's unique. And so we're just applying our unique skill sets to markets that have a need for us.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We first noticed it when, like we're builders at heart. Like we kind of similar to you. We came from that background. We started building. We had our own in-house general contracting firm, still have that to today. And we kind of started to outsource the construction end of it, the vertical portion of it, and realized, okay, there's an opportunity here because there's not that many general contractors that are worth a crap. So we decided to bring it in house and start managing it ourselves. And
Yeah.
we just started getting bought out of all of our land positions. We noticed it was so much easier to build on a piece of land where you could build 30, 40 houses at a time, as opposed to kind of being spread out, the onesie twosie infill and
Yeah.
downtown core. You tear it down, you build two. And we said, aha, we just need to go after opportunities where we can do 30, 40 houses and get bulk discounting from vendors and suppliers. I mean, it just made sense. And we started getting knocks on the door as we were finishing some of our developments and we were getting ready to go vertical from these national home builders. And they're like, hey, we really like your development. You want to sell it? And we're like, no, we're good. No. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, here's what we'll give it for you for it. And we're like, yeah, it's for sale now. You can buy it, definitely. Like, yeah, and you want the one across the street we're about to do too? We'll develop that for you as well. And so
Yeah.
it was kind of funny. We started getting knocks on the door, and then we noticed that um, the amount of earnest money they were willing to put down to help out with the project. I mean, some of these builders are putting down like 20% of the purchase price. Release the development is free money. And when I go and I'm underwriting some of these deals, I mean, I'm getting less than like a 50% loan to value when I go and raise money or get debt on it. I'm like, I just can't find any other real estate deals where I can get under like a 55% LTV. I mean, that's just bonkers to me because,
Yeah.
we're used to building houses where we're like, okay, 75% LTV is kind of what we're looking at. And so to
Yep.
me, I love the amount of downside protection that it offers and the fact that you can have a pre-sold contract, eliminate a little bit of that market risk where you're not, putting a house on the market and waiting for a consumer to buy it. You've got a Wall Street backed firm purchasing it. If you
Yep.
structure it in the right way, it can be really, really lucrative. So it was interesting. That's how we kind of saw the writing on the wall for this particular space.
It's a
When you
great business model, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like we started doing it, a couple years ago. We're still relatively new, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
We've been selling all of our developments to these national home builders now. Like I remember we were going to go
Yeah.
vertical on a bunch of townhomes and we got bought out of it. And that was kind of the beginning of it. Now we're like, yeah, how about we just sell everything? And you've got multiple exit strategies too. You can just entitle the land. We just got done selling a 50-unit townhome project to Goodall Homes. We just entitled it and sold it off. Didn't have to buy it, didn't have to sit on it, just assigned them, or we double closed on it at the close. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the first exit strategy. The
Yep.
second is you can develop and sell the lots to them. And then for some reason, we always thought, okay, if we get another market event, then we get stuck with a bunch of developed lots. Like we know how to build them. And so hopefully, we
Yeah,
can hold it and just build it and sell it. And so I don't know very many, especially real estate strategies or real estate niches where you've got so many different exit strategies that are available to you. Because a lot of people get hurt when they get stuck in a particular exit and they can't get that exit. And so
that's
this is
right.
just kind of unique. It offers a lot. Now, how did you go about? I want to talk a little bit about your book that you've got.
Yeah.
You talk about, optimizing your life. What, but actually before we get into the carrots, let's get into the sticks a little bit. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made in your path as an entrepreneur that really helped shape who you are today?
Uh, love this question. So many, so many mistakes. Um, I would say some of the top ones that come to mind, Brandon, are, not really getting shiny object syndrome. So not being very focused and not being extremely diligent with my path and what I wanted to do. So, in other words, at one point in my career, I got into solar development, and we were going to have a solar company, and we were doing large scale solar developments and doing multiple megawatt solar farms. We did a bunch in Massachusetts because there were these great SREC programs, and we could, really capitalize on that. And so there's been various sort of offshoot businesses that I've done through the years,
Yeah.
owning an excavation business and so on and so forth. And they were all great and they made money. But if instead I had taken that energy and just hyper focused into what is now my path, I know that I would have achieved much more. And so that's a good it was a mistake in that even though I still made money in these disparate ventures, that it wasn't I sort of went wide and instead of going deep, and I
Mhm.
did not reap as much reward from that by doing so. And I frankly opened myself up to a lot more risk because of that. I
Mhm.
would say secondly,
Well, real quick on the first, just to piggyback that, it's so funny because I've made the exact same mistakes. In fact, I'd say over the past year and a half, it's really been about focusing, right, on that
yeah,
one thing. Because when you're building houses and then developing land, and then we had a firm approach us and, about data centers, like, "Hey, what do you got?" We're like, "Oh, data centers. Let's go find something for data centers now because we're already in the land business. We're already looking for it." We thought, "Oh, it'll just be an ancillary thing we'll add."
yeah,
And you're right. It's just pure distraction. Even people coming to us that want to pay us these multiple five-figure consulting fees, to the, us personally, myself and my partner, like, hey, if we paid you $50,000, could you consult with us for a year or two? And like that's kind of attractive, right? You're like, wow, I just need to, meet with you X amount of hours, and then you look at it and you go, oh my God, this is really just a big distraction and I'm wasting time, right? Every hour
yeah.
you spend on something is an hour you're not spending on the main thing. And it's taken me a long time to learn that. So I definitely share that. You were talking about the second point.
Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. And the second one was really, something that I go into in the book a bit, which is that, when I was in my 30s and even into my early 40s, I was a bit of a brash leader, and I was kind of not the right type of leadership for the company that I had. And so that was a mistake. And I talk about that openly in the book and about how I've learned to be more of a heart forward leader and how I've learned to adjust who I am to be able to grow the type of business that I want to have now. And that, in fact, my form of leadership in the past of, hey, I know what's best and I know what to do and do it my way and do it this way. And why isn't it done yet? And micromanaging was counterproductive to the success of the business, actually. And I see that now and I recognize that. And it was through my ability to work on myself and improve myself that I came to these aha moments that I share.
Wow. What's funny is over the last year, me personally, I've been trying to kill the inner drill sergeant because I've found that he really doesn't belong anywhere hardly. And what was kind of funny was I was leading and managing in a way where I talked to myself. And so for me personally, that inner drill sergeant was how I spoke to myself. Like when
Yeah.
things weren't working out or things were tough, it was like, suck it up, get over it, push harder, work harder, work out harder. That drill sergeant, he comes in handy sometimes, like when I'm at the gym and stuff like that, but does not belong anywhere. I found that he was showing up in my personal life, like in my marriage, solving some issues with my wife. It was like very hardcore. And when I think of drill sergeant, I'm like, you think of very brash, very hard, very direct, very straightforward to the point, like get it done, no excuses.
Yeah.
And man, I could not have been more wrong. We hired a consultant, earlier this year, and it's been one of the best things that I've ever done. I've hired lots of consultants before, but I've never hired consultants that actually fly into town and sit there like right next to me and shadow me. So I got this guy Bob. He comes into town and he ran a development company for 8 years, helped the owners sell it for 9 figures. He's like the perfect dude to do and hire for what we're doing. And the number one thing that I've taken from him is he is constantly, genuinely complimenting people. I walk around and I see how he lifts people up. And he literally, like, you get excited. And he does it with me too. He's looking for things constantly to lift people up. It's kind of like a currency. We've got this people capital, right? And what he's
Yeah.
doing is he's constantly depositing his people capital into the bank. So whenever he asks somebody to do something or needs something, he's got plenty to withdraw from. It's been really, really fascinating. So I definitely can relate to what you're talking about. All right, that was the second point. Are there more?
Yeah. Well, I mean, goodness, I could go on for a long time about mistakes I've made. I mean, look, just one quick one, which kind of relates to what we discussed earlier, which was, you know, one of the deals that I got into in real estate where I lost a bunch of money and didn't go well was because I over leveraged. And so that, thankfully, at that point in time, it was only a 5-figure loss because it was just a house flip. And it wasn't a really big, massive property where I, could have lost millions of dollars. And so that really did teach me a valuable lesson about over leveraging. And so, that's something that I'm just really, really diligent about now is that's the only time you get hurt, really. It's how you
Yeah.
structure your capital stack. And if you over leverage yourself, it's hard to solve problems when they happen.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Don't make sure you got plenty of downside protection in your deals for
Yeah,
sure. I could all day about this stuff. My first new construction project in 2017, 2018. Yeah, I lost like 40,000 of my own money. I was just using my own money
sure.
at the time. And man, that was the best MBA, better than any master's in business I could have gone to
Yep.
school for. Oh my God. All right. So those are some of the setbacks that you've had. A lot of people, when they have success, it defines who they are. There's usually some areas in your life, like making money means that something is working. What have been some of the biggest wins in your life that have helped shape who you are?
Well, the biggest win and why I really wanted to write this book and put it out there, Brandon, is because it's life isn't about making money. And you don't realize that until you have a bunch of money. And when you buy your first Rolex, it's great, but then after that, it doesn't matter. And if you buy a fancy car because you want a fancy car, it's great, and then you realize it doesn't matter. And then when you buy the big house and it's great, and then you realize it doesn't matter. And what really matters is that money is really only there for me. And I think most people who get to a certain point, I hope realize this. It's only there to produce value for others and to produce freedom in your own life. And that's the
Hmm.
value of money. And that's why you should have money. The material things of this world are not going to benefit anyone. Now that, I have 3 children and they are the why, and the why is about much larger than me. So having the why that defines your spiritual connections and your connection to relationships with others and truly uplifting others and bringing other people up is the point of all of this. And it's not
Hmm.
to make more money. And so if I make another 10 million or 20 million or $200 million in my life, it's not going to matter. Now I'm still going to, because that's just the path that I'm on, but it's not my why. And I'm not trying to do it because I want that. I already know what that feels like. And I already know that that's not why we're all here.
So you mentioned that one of the reasons you do what you do is you've made enough money. So let's talk about some of the other stuff that your money's just a tool to be free, do the things that you want, with who you want, to help lift others. And you
Yes.
talk about a lot of this in your book. What steps are you taking? Like, show us how you are, practicing that today, and how are you designing your life around this fulfillment?
Yeah. So I am hyper present, meaning right now there is literally nothing else going through my head about my wife or my children or my business or anything. I'm here with you 110%. And I do that in every single moment of my life. So I I time block myself out into calendars. And so I'm super efficient with my time when I'm at work, and I don't work more than maybe 30 hours a week, if that. I'm hyper on. And when I'm on, those 30 hours are like 60 hours worth of volume because I'm so hyper focused on what I need to do to move the ball.
Mm,
I do the same thing with my children though, and it's one-on-one time. And I have blocked time where I am just hyper focused on them. And then and my wife, of course, I have to spend dedicated time with her, and I'm so dialed into her. And we, date nights are not just, hey, we're going to go out to dinner and we're going to go see a show or do something like that. I try to break it up, try to do something interesting, try to be a little bit of a different uh try to be creative in how I show up in that relationship. And so it's just putting the time and energy into all of these relationships and being hyper present and really spending that one-on-one time. That's something that I think really moves the needle. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of energy, I have a lot of energy, and it's because we both care about our bodies, and we're careful about how we feed ourselves. What food am I
mm,
putting in my body? Do I go to the gym or not? Am I a healthy person? That is a huge component to how you show up in life in general, and I talk a lot about that. Um, and then spirituality, right? Sort of asking yourself, going a lot of layers deeper than the surface into your subconscious and into your inner child and into your connection with God or a higher power or whatever you want to call it, and really getting in tune there. That's the most important thing everyone can do.
No, yeah, that's huge. What I find is, this isn't something that I've quite mastered yet. I love the book Power of Now. That is I think Eckhart Tolle wrote that book. It
Yeah.
really puts things in perspective. Before I read that book, I did not realize just how much time I spent in the past thinking about the past, the regrets, past relationships. I mean, oh my gosh, I spent more time thinking about the past, mistakes I
Yeah.
made, things that I could have done, should have done, would have done. And I did not even realize that until I'd read that book and I started being a little bit more aware of my conscious thoughts. Now, what's kind of funny, since, being an entrepreneur, I tend to spend more time thinking in the future about things and living in the future, and I find that sometimes I struggle when I'm supposed to be turned off at the end of the night. I just find, like, my brain, there's being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, the list is endless. It
Yeah.
never ends because there's always another level to get to, somebody, to hire, a problem. I joke that the problems don't go away in entrepreneurship. You just get a little bit better at solving them and they get bigger,
They get
right?
bigger.
I look
Yeah.
back and I literally laugh at the problems that I used to get anxiety about like 2, 3
Yeah.
years ago. I mean, it's a complete joke, and I know 2, 3 years from now,
Yeah.
probably be the same story. So, what tools or mental frameworks do you use that help you stay in the present moment? To keep your feet are where your feet, your what's that saying? Where your feet are, your head should be. How do you do that so well?
Well, I meditate every morning. And I stay again physical in my body at least 4 to 5 times a week. My workout buddy is my teenage son, so that's awesome. That's
Man,
part of
that's
our
a
one-on-one time is we're gym buddies. But staying in your body, right? Staying physically present in your body and not going up into the ethers with your mind. And the meditation helps me to do that, to set the intention for the day, to set my heart in the right place, to know that the path is laid out, right? So we're, as entrepreneurs, we have a plan, we have a vision, we know where we're going. That's the
mhm,
most important thing. Now once you set that vision, um, you don't always have to have your shoulder to the grindstone, pushing that rock up the hill to get there. It's okay to know that you're on. I look at it now as a river. I'm in the river. And there's a current and I'm flowing. And so I've already put myself in the river. I've already built the boat and I've already jumped in and the current's already going. So all I'm doing now is what, paddling a little bit harder.
Mhm.
I can kind of relax a little bit now because I know I've already set the right course. I've set the right path and things are going to go the way they're going to go. I believe in things happen for a reason when they're supposed to happen. And so I've found in my life personally that when I try to, and professionally rather, if I try to push things and force things, things don't feel right. But you ever get that feeling when everything's just in flow state and things are just coming to you and you're just accepting them? The universe is giving them to you, God's giving them to you, and you're just accepting it. That's the magic place to be.
Wow. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what it's like to be bored. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I was like, I don't think I've been bored in like 10 years. Like, I've forgotten what that feeling feels like. And I
Yeah.
could take a lesson or two about the relaxing thing. It just seems like I'm addicted to the next just productivity. Like, I'm a productivity junkie, and I have a
Yeah.
very hard time just sitting and chilling. And it's kind of funny. Like, my brain has picked up on the productivity, the dopamine hits that it gets from accomplishing things, scratching stuff off of your to-do list. And it's something that I've definitely got to figure out how to get at it.
Well,
Before
look, some of this too has to do with um, what I like to call seasons of life, right? You're in a different season of life than I am. So it's okay to be doing what you're doing right now. I'm 52. When you're
Mhm.
52, you probably feel a lot like I feel. I hope you do. And because I was like that. And it's okay to do that because that's the entrepreneur spirit and that's the drive that gets you where you need to go. But if I'm speaking to, let's say, my younger self, to the extent that you can, it would have benefited me to actually take it down a notch and not push
Mhm.
so hard and be a little more present in my life around me and be a little more attentive to the relationships around me and the others around me and being a little more heart forward with how I conduct myself with everyone else in my life, not just
Mhm.
being this driven A type personality. Um, and so that's the wisdom that I try to share in the book.
Yep, I love it. So before you leave us today, this book, what I love is that you wrote it without trying to sell a course or any kind of consulting, and those are the best books. You don't find very many business books today that don't have a ulterior motive. Some of the best ones are the ones that were written with the intention of just bestowing knowledge onto the next generation. This is why I like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People are timeless classics because it literally was written out of the pure it was written out of pure I want to give back, and that's what you've done as well. So maybe give us a couple more teasers with your book, Optimize Your Life. What are some of the highlights in that book that you want the audience members to know about?
Yeah, it's again, like you said, it's really an amalgamation of what I've learned over the last, 25, 30 years. And I really just wanted to get it out of my head and just get it
Mhm.
on paper and share it in the hopes that there are some nuggets in there that benefit anyone at any stage that they're at in their process. And it was a bit sort of like maybe speaking to my son or speaking to my younger self of, hey Shane, if you were to do this again, well, how could you have improved this whole matter? Um, but we all have our path, and I believe in that. So some other nuggets of wisdom. I think we covered the main ones. It's really personal health and well-being. You can have $200 billion, but if your body isn't healthy and you're not
Mhm.
living to enjoy it and you're not a joy to be around, then the money doesn't matter. Who cares
Yeah.
about it, right? Health is everything. Health is your wealth. And so I think not enough people focus on that. And it's not just about eating clean or eating healthy and going to the gym and working out and all of that. It is all of that. But it's also about how do you manage your stress level? What are your cortisol levels like, right? I mean, how are your emotions? How do you manage your emotions? Are you a joy to be around? Do you bring joy to others? How do people remember you? And they're not going to remember, the clothes you wear, the car you drive, or the house you live in. They're going to remember how you made them feel, right?
Mhm.
Like you talked about Bob. I already like him. He's my kind of guy. He makes other people feel a certain way, and that's how he's remembered. And that's a bit of the wisdom I try to impart in the book. Um, and I talk a lot about heart forward leadership because it is a a business leadership book as well. And how do you do that? And what does that mean in your culture for your business and your staff, your employees? And what does that look like and feel like on a day-to-day basis? And how do you show up as your best self, being a heart forward leader? And then, of
I
course,
love it.
all the relationships, right? All the relationships that matter in life, your family, your friends, your loved ones, etc. How do you really show up as your best self and all of that? And how do you balance all of this? Because to me, I love the Tony Robbins quote that it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration, where this is just all one thing that I'm doing now. And it doesn't feel like I'm working, and it doesn't feel like now I'm on personal time. This is just me being me now and being my best version of myself in every way. And that's, I think, the what I'm trying to help others think about as well.
I love that. If I've done anything right, I feel like I've got the balance part of it right. Because I boiled down life down into body being balanced in business. I like Garrett White's book. He's the one that kind of introduced me to that
Yeah.
concept. I always thought growing up that, we see the soccer mom who's a great mom and great wife, but she's so busy she never has time to take care of herself and she's overweight and she's insecure. Where you see the successful businessman who's made a lot of money, done really well, but he's never got time for his wife and kids. I always thought that
Yeah.
I had to sacrifice one area in order to succeed in another. And Garrett White was one of those guys where I was like, no, it's not true. If you want to
Yes.
build a great business, date nights with your wife. If you want to build a good business, date nights with your kiddos. If you want to build a big business, make sure you take time to be healthy and oil up the Ferrari that is your body. And you can do these things. So it
That's
was
right.
really just mind blowing. And for me, what I've discovered, my why is to create as many unforgettable, unique life experiences with those that I love. And what's
Mm.
really helped me and what I've gotten just so much enjoyment out of are my annual trips that I do. So I do an annual father son trip every year. It's a bucket list thing for my dad. We did the whiskey trail last year because he's a big
Nice.
bourbon guy. We did the bourbon trail the year before that. And these are things that he normally would not do because he just doesn't have time. But I pull him out of his little cocoon and we do it. My mom, 25 years, history teacher, loves history, never was able to afford to go to any of the historic places that we visited. And so, like this year, we just got done. Where do we go? San Antonio, the Alamo. Like she's taught it for
Nice.
25 years, never done it. Previous year, we went to Savannah, Georgia. My brother and sister, we do a sibling trip every year. We went to Sedona this year, somewhere on their bucket list.
Awesome.
Shane, let me tell you, just being able to be present 1 week in a year. I mean, that's all it really does take to get close. Because to me, I think of life as a game of who can gather, or not. You're not competing against people, you're competing against yourself. But the game with yourself is how can you gather as many experiences? Because that's what we retire on. We retire on our experiences. We die with our experiences. You can't take the money with you, and that's really helped me. I can tell you that I've gotten more joy, and so my business is a tool for me to create that freedom, to create that life, that flexibility, and have the money to go and do these fun things and spend money on the things that like my mom would never want to spend money on because she's been a history teacher for so long. So it's
Yeah.
been pretty cool. Do you have any traditions like that before we wrap up?
Oh man, I love that. I think that's so inspiring. I love that you do that. That's amazing. Ours are really done as a family, and yeah, it's all about experiences. And it's about we're total. My wife and I are both total travel bugs. We love to travel. She's from Europe. She grew up there, and so we the kids are still a bit young right now, so we're not taking a ton of trips to Europe, but we do fly around and check out a lot of amazing experiences for our kids right now. And then one of the bucket list trips I have is kind of similar to your dad's, but Scotland. I want to go to do the Scotch tour because
Yeah.
I like Scotch better than bourbon, but it's that's on my bucket list. So I've got a guy trip planned for that coming up. Um, and yeah, I've been fortunate to travel a lot of places in the world, but it's certainly part of what we do and how we live as a family is experiencing in other cultures. We're also blessed to have a lot of different cultures in our family, so it's really I love that whole travel aspect of life and accumulating experiences with the loved ones you have. That's great.
Love that you got that going on with your family. This has been an absolute treat having you on today. If people in the audience want to learn more about you, learn more about Hampshire Capital, where can they go?
Yeah, so our website is just hampshirecap.com, hampshirecap.com. You can find me on, LinkedIn, et cetera. Shane Carter, NH, I think, is that. And of course, the book is, wherever you like to shop, Optimize Your Life, available on Amazon and probably a bunch of other places.
We'll make sure that that link gets posted in the show notes. Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure as well, Brandon. Thank you.